This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome to the Elevate Construction Podcast, where we find the best builders to share of their experiences and elevate the entire industry from coast to coast. My name is Jason Schroeder, and today's podcast is about Who Moved My Cheese. It's a fantastic book that my friend Jake Williams, who is on today, say hi, Jake.
Hi.
He introduced me to this book. I had only read it in summary, and when he went back and told me to read back through it, it was a game changer, and he and I have had some of the most profound conversations because of this book. So we're going to cover that today. Before we go there, please share this podcast. The people today that will really enjoy what we have to cover are the folks that may have been in the industry for a while. Anybody who may be struggling with change, and anybody who really wants to get familiar with the new things the industry is doing, but's having a little bit of difficulty. So if you know of somebody, these beautiful people out there, but maybe struggling just a little bit with change, please share this podcast with them today. So Jake Williams is a field operations director, one of the best builders that I've ever been around. He's known for saying things like, if everything's important, thing is that leaders do things that no one else can do or will do. He always has this wisdom, this thoughtfulness that I've always grown to appreciate. And so you'll enjoy this today. So my first question for you, Jake, is what do you love? What are you passionate about so that we can kind of connect you with the audience?
I love building people. I started in the industry to build buildings and quickly realized that I really like building people. I like to empower people with tools and knowledge and wisdom and little things that I've learned and get connected with people and continue learning myself. I like to learn and grow and continually improve myself. I love the beautiful buildings that we build in construction, but I really, really just love to watch people excel, to reach new places in their career and their families, to watch them get excited when they're turning corners on projects where, I've been there and I'm like, yeah, I was excited with that at one point too. Like a new superintendent that gets to top out on time or ahead of schedule. And me like thinking back and recalling the feeling when I did that the first time and watching it in their eyes and them light up and be like, man, it was really tough. It was really hard. Took a lot more effort than I thought it was going to be. I thought it would be easy and I'd be the one that would just go make it so simple. It was hard, but I did it. And like the reassurance that they feel when they get there. And so watching the light in new people's eyes when they hit all those tough things, it just really is what inspires me and where I get a lot of my passion from today.
Well, I appreciate that introduction. One more thing that I would say for anybody listening is Jake Williams oversees in his organization all of the superintendents in that region, has over 25 plus years of experience, has experience with layout, has experience with the craft, has experience, longtime superintendent. I think that's important because when PMs and superintendents or anybody in the field in construction are listening to these podcasts, I think it's important to know that people like Jake, what I call the generals in construction, has that experience, has been there, done that. He thinks things through, has a lot of wisdom, and he's the guy that everyone comes to for advice, just so you guys know. That's been my experience. So the concepts that we're covering today are that much more impactful to me coming from Jake. And so would you do me a favor for the people listening, Jake, and talk about kind of the little introduction that you gave me about Who Moved My Cheese and some of the thoughts that you're having with it? And I would like to ask some follow-up questions with that. Would you mind giving us an introduction to that book?
Yeah, you bet. So just a quick lead into it. It's a book that my mom recommended. She's in her mid-70s, still working, enjoys working. And so she's just kept working when she should have retired years ago and saw a change in her dental practice. With a new dentist coming in and a lot of changes. And it was a book that he brought to her and recommended that she read because she's like, wait a minute, like the world's changing. Like, I'm not okay with it. Like I was 15 years with my old employer and I loved it. And now all this stuff's happening and I'm not sure. And I think I want to retire. And he's like, hey, go read this book. Do me a favor, read the book and come back. If you still want to retire, then let's go. And it made this huge impact for her where she's now been with him another 10 years. And is really enjoying her work and loving it. And so she recommended it to me just in a side conversation about 2 years ago. And I thought, oh, yeah, that sounds like a cute story. Maybe I'll get around to reading it someday. And so I just put it in the back of my mind and filed it away as one of those, one day I'll get to it when I'm looking for some enjoyable reading. Um, and that was 2 years ago. And it's important to note that because the last 2 years have been really difficult for me. Just a lot of really difficult projects, a lot of difficult turmoil in the construction industry, which many of you have probably felt. Just a lot more challenging than what I've seen in the past. And so, you know, I just finished a really tough project closeout process with a team and really struggling personally to stay engaged and stay focused and where's the passion? I'm wondering this to myself as I'm driving into work one morning. I'm like, I've got to figure out a way to get engaged. And I used to love this and now I don't, now I'm kind of frustrated with it and I'm tired of it. And I'm kind of wondering if it's even for me anymore. And as I'm driving into work, I'm like, okay, well, I probably just need to turn on another self-help book and, learn about something new and I'll have a new principle that I can think on. And I'm just not engaged for the day. And instead, this book pops into my mind and I'm like, you know what? I'm really not into work today. I don't even feel like going to work today. I want to listen to this silly little book that my mom told me about and see what it's all about. And so I turned that on instead. And it was just about 45 minutes. It's only an hour and a half long to listen to, 2 times speed on Audible, which was a Jason Schroeder suggestion, which has worked really good for me. So I turned it on, and within about 15 minutes, I'm hooked on this little book because it quickly gets through the story and it gets to this really important question, which goes through my mind 100 times a day now, that the character asks himself, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And I realized when I was listening to how much of my life had been driven by fear, and by that motivation rather than inspiration, looking forward and seeing as opportunities and exciting, that you can go do something different rather than just keep doing the same thing. And it connected for me because that's what hooked me on the construction industry was the change. That we're always changing stuff. We go out there and we take a green field and we turn it into a beautiful $115 billion hospital campus that's serving patients, right? I mean, it's the change that we love and that addicted me to construction. And here I found myself, 25 years into my career, kind of upset and disappointed with change. And I'm like, wait, and it made me, and it talks about it in the book, but there's 2 points in that book where I literally laughed out loud by myself in the truck at wow, that's me. That's exactly what I'm thinking right now. And how silly that it was to get there and did not even realize it. It's just such a gradual thing. So super impactful book. I've read or listened to hundreds of them over the years because I'm just really fascinated with learning and trying to learn and improve myself and help other people and just new ideas and philosophies and just really open to lots of different ideas. This one is by far the most impactful for me, just because it really opened my mind to how closed-minded I had become, even though I considered myself an open-minded person. And just one more piece that really locked into my mind is this idea that success is a destination, and that success is somewhere that you arrive to when in reality it's not. It's a thought process. It's a way of being and a way of thinking that keeps us in that sweet spot of success. And when we decide that we've arrived at a successful destination where we're going to set up camp and this is a spot where I'm always going to be happy, that it's an illusion. It's a lie because the stability aspect that we dream of is not real. Stability is just an illusion that we all would like to have, but in reality, we get bored with it. Stability is one of those where it's okay, I've arrived and this is awesome, but will it be awesome tomorrow? Will it be awesome 5 years from now, 10 years? And even if it were true and you could claim that stability, you're not happy with it and it's not true.
I think you and I are both thinking probably of the same quote. I can't remember. I should probably Google it, but stability is an illusion, right? Or security or stability is an illusion. Life is either an adventure or nothing, right? To your point, when you laughed out loud, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And then realizing there's no such thing as real security or stability. You just need to go take your adventure. Those are slaps in the face. We realize that we've been held back by ourselves all of these years. For anybody just wondering about the book, and Jake, you'll have to help me. Was it Scratch and Sniff were the 2 mice in the story?
Yeah, it was Sniff and Scurry.
Oh, Sniff and Scurry.
Look, and then there's 2 characters named Him and Haw. and they're all named like appropriately for what their roles are in the book. Sniff is the one who's just always like looking for change and like always aware of his surroundings and like, the winds are changing or shifting. I sense this, I sense that. And then Scurry is the one that's like, okay, let's go figure it out. And they're just really quick and they're mice. And so they're completely proactive, or they just react to everything immediately. Like, hey, we don't need to question why. We don't need to put it through our value system. We don't need to check it with our beliefs. It just is. Let's go do it. Right. And then the little people are more, they develop values like we do as humans, and they develop belief systems on what it means. And rather than just going with it, they're analyzing everything and, well, wait a minute, what does it mean? Is it a trick? Is it this? Is it that? Rather than just acting and flowing with it, they're still back there trying to figure it out, while Sniff and Scurry have gone off and, found their new thing. And him is the one that's always locked back in the past. And no, I'm still pissed about it because it shouldn't have happened to me. I worked hard to get there. How could they take it from me? That guy. Then Haw's the one that finally gets to where he's like, just laughing about it, because he's like, now this is kind of funny because I got tricked. Like, now I figured it out and went on. And the other key piece is like, we all are like all four of those characters at different times. Yeah. I realized is like, when I was first listening to it, is like, I'm really Haw right now, but I challenged myself to listen to it every month after. And I've actually listened to it multiple times a month because it's so short. And I still laugh at the same two spots when I get to them. And I realized listening to it through the second time that I was like, I've been all four of those characters at different times in my life. And for me, it was like when I was young, I was more like Sniff and Scurry, and it was exciting. It was like, as a kid, you're like, can't wait to go out and conquer the world and explore and look down every corridor and go out on every road and, buy a motorcycle and ride across the country. You're like fearless, right? And then as you get older, you start getting this illusion over this well, you need to become more stable. You need to settle down. You need to. And so you start like going more, and that's getting old to me. It's like, I tell you, since I read that book, just the energy that I feel, like the youth, it's like, I don't feel old. I feel like there's still all these opportunities, and there's still tons of, 20, 30 years left where I can go do cool things and still have fun with life.
So you would probably say that old is probably a state of mind versus a state of
Absolutely.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So for those listening, the book, I think it's Sniff, Scurry, him and Haw, their journey through this maze, finding their cheese and their adventure in becoming more open to change. It's funny that you mentioned that we're all different people, different, we're different characters at different parts in our life. I was going to say, between you and me as a team, like, I feel like you're Sniff and I'm Scurry sometimes. Like, you'll anticipate the change and see where we need to go. And I just like run into a wall trying to get there. Right. So like, I remember one time you said, why not use tact planning for our schematic design development schedules? And I was like, oh, let's go. And so like the next day we were doing it. Right. So I'm just scurrying there according to your vision. So what that tells me kind of is that a person can be those different characters, but also there's different characters amongst the team, right? And that we can leverage each other's strengths. If we have a project manager that thinks differently, or like you and I think differently, or somebody on your team, and maybe there's a little bit of a rub there, but maybe embrace it, which I think we've done, because that'll help you to get to your next, to find your cheese, right?
Yeah. Adaptive teaming is looking for strengths, weaknesses, and different people are in different roles at different times, and making sure everybody's in the right spot.
I agree. So that was so profound. I should probably just close the podcast down now, but I'm not going to, because we're going to jam on. So you mentioned two things. I'd like to ask you to give advice to anybody listening. We've invited anyone listening to this podcast to share with superintendents, PMs, anyone who's been in the industry, right? Those two concepts that you brought up of what would you do if you weren't afraid, and realizing that success is not a destination, but it's about the journey. What advice would you give to the target audience, to the people that you and I are trying to bless in this podcast?
Well, the two points that I mentioned were, the question that you should be rolling in your mind, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Now, I got to say, they put it in the book, and I think it's really important. There are some things in life that you should be afraid of, where fear is like going to protect us from really dangerous situations. But I've found in life that most of the things that I'm afraid of do not fit into that category. They are not life threatening. They are not world ending. They are not any of those things that we kind of imagine them to be in our minds. And sometimes when we're overanalyzing things in life, we can tell ourselves a story to get us there where we think they're a lot worse than they are. And I challenge you to look back. One of the points would be look back in your life at the situations where you were really nervous and afraid. Did any of them turn out to be as bad as you thought they would?
Wow.
And when I do that and look back, it helps me to look forward into the future and be like, okay, my conscience or whatever you want to call it, like my fear meter has always been wrong. It's always set way higher than it belongs. So I'm gonna assume that's true moving forward. And if I'm afraid, if my fear meter's saying don't do it, don't speak up, don't lead, don't say that thing that's gonna maybe rub somebody the wrong way, don't hold people accountable, do it. Push into the fear, because on the other side of the fear is where you find the freedom. And that's where you find the success that I'm talking about. And then it's rewarding. And the more you do it, the more you're going to want to do it. And it will change you a new way of being for you. And that's where I believe, for me, I found success. And I think that you can too. It's just push through it. When you're afraid, just take that as the challenge to yourself. You know what? I'm going to do this. What do I got to lose? I'm going to do it. This is an adventure. I'm going to see what's on the other side. And I'm going to go find out. So that would be on that one. On the other one, the success one really ties into that. I think all too often in life, and for me especially, 25 years with the same company is a long time. I started with this company as a carpenter and walked in out of a union hall and it built a career here. And so for me, one of the parts that I laughed about in the book was when one of the characters, I think it's him, he's like mad as heck. And he's like, what the heck? I worked hard for this. I worked my butt off to get here, and I sacrificed and I clawed and I scratched and I did all of the right things, and I deserve to be here. And it leads into the story of, that we all like start out with these challenges and we're like hungry and we go after it. We work hard, we get confident. And then once we get the confidence, we think we've found stability. Quickly after that follows the arrogance that comes with success, or the perceived arrival of the success. And then with the arrogance, we stop learning and growing. And we're like, this is my cheese. I've earned it. I don't have to go hunt for this cheese anymore. This is mine. It's always going to be here. And damn it, if somebody takes my cheese, they better compensate me for it so I can not have to go look for new cheese. Right. And I realize that is just complete crap. Like the arrival, the success, you have to stay hungry and keep looking for it, and just keep the mindset of, I'm going to keep looking because it's fun. It's an adventure, and change the idea of fear, the idea of that's something that's scarier to be afraid of, as a challenge. Like, hey, this is a new adventure. This is something where I can go have fun. And when you move out of that and into that scary spot, yeah, it's scary, but you know what? Crossover is scary with fun and the feeling. How different are they? It's still excitement. It still gets your blood up. It still gets your heart pumping and you're ready to go take on the world. Just take it and harness it and push it forward to do something that's exciting for you. The more you do it, the more you almost get like addicted to the adrenaline that comes with it. Yeah. So that would be a summary. It's probably long, but
the thoughts that come to me, if somebody's struggling with sustainability or lean concepts or integrated project delivery or new safety standards that the industry is rolling out, or quite frankly, and I'll say this to help anyone in the construction industry, appropriate behaviors, protecting people from discrimination or sexual harassment, or protecting protected classes. A lot of these things are new. I remember just one little example, when hand wash stations came out for restrooms in 2001, I think. I was new in construction. I'm like, this is the weirdest, I was like totally poo-pooing the idea because it just, I didn't think of it. You know what I mean? And now I won't go on a job with, unless I know there's hand wash stations for our skilled craft. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because we will all be in a spot where we end up comfortable and somebody comes along and moves our cheese, and we will all, I guess that's just the thing that I've learned from talking to you, is we will all have to find our cheese. It will be moved. It will change. we will have said, I worked hard to get here, and it will happen to all of us. So how are we going to show up when that happens, right? You know, the other thing that you taught me the other day that I want to bring up is that sometimes the people that are helping us find our cheese can be accused of having moved the cheese. If you have, like, let's say a Jake Williams as a director is telling a job site to, we should consider this, this, and this. I think it's easy for people to identify, say, hey, well, Jake's trying to change this, or Jake's trying to do that. Or Jake is trying to help us find where the industry is moving.
Yeah, it's really easy to blame the guide um, for moving the cheese when in reality they're just trying to help you get on the road again and find success again. Um, it's super easy to get in that where you're like, wait a minute, they moved the cheese. And it's like, no, they didn't move the cheese. The cheese is always moving. They were just the first ones to actually realize that it was moving, and they're headed in that direction, and they're begging you to come with them. So that's spot on.
That's a takeaway for me. When you said get on the road again, did anyone else think of Willie Nelson? Like I just started playing in my mind. That's funny. So we're gonna close this out with two things. What with takeaways? So I'm gonna list my takeaways. If you can do 2 or 3 takeaways of yourself, if you have them, meaning whatever you feel is appropriate, and then we need to challenge our audience to do something. So the takeaways that I got was, hey, ask yourself the question: what would you do today or tomorrow or the next day if you were not afraid? Would you start that business? Would you take that leap? Would you go run that project? Would you speak up to your coworker? Would you coach that person? Would you challenge that meeting that's not effective? Right. The other takeaway I got was go find your cheese. Even if you think you've arrived, keep going, keep heading in a good direction, and embrace that change and find your passion. Any takeaways from you, Jake?
Couple things come to mind. You've heard the people say, the world's moving faster today than it ever has. I believe that's true. I mean, for me, it feels like it's moving a heck of a lot faster than it ever was. And when I compare this to this book and something else I took away that I challenge you to consider as you move forward is that in the world that was much slower, stability um, and loyalty were highly regarded and rewarded. And in today's ever-changing world, companies are rewarding more and more innovation, adaptability, and the ability to see change and move with it. And so that's a personal challenge for you in your life, and it's a challenge for you if you're trying to grow your career. Is that's what I see in the world that we live in, would be one point. And then the other one would be think of every win as an opportunity for what's next. If you can have a win and when you feel that sense of accomplishment, rather than let it turn into something like arrogance or overconfidence, challenge yourself to take and think about it. Okay, what's next? Not the end of the journey, but the start of a new one, and see where it takes you.
I wish I could just sit here and reflect for a minute on that. I really do like both of those points. That kind of ties already into the challenge, because we need to challenge the audience always to do something, because if we only publish these podcasts for entertainment, we're not accomplishing our mission to elevate construction, right? We always need to be doing something. So if you're listening, I would just challenge you to be part of the 10% that will actually go do something with this. Go read the book. So here's some challenges for me, and then Jake can speak up. Go read Who Moved My Cheese. Set a challenge, read it every year or every quarter, or every month, like Jake does. If you have a need, right? I mean, that book was game changing for me. Go read that book. That's number one. You can listen to it on Audible. The story is really nicely done, and you can do it at 1.5, 2 times the speed. The other thing I would say, when I learned that there's, Jake is very much how can we discuss this and build collaboration and trust? I'm like, let's go and knock down doors and shoot everybody. And I shot 5 bad guys and 1 good guy, right? Like that's my weakness. And so I find that after I get past that weakness, that burst of energy, really what's going to build the trust there is addressing each other's concerns, right? So if you find yourself in a situation where my challenge is, if you find yourself in a situation where you say, this is how I've always done it, what's this new thing? Perhaps it can be, I'm going to learn about this new thing. I have these 4 concerns that I want you to keep in mind as I'm learning and as we're partnering. And if you can address these 4 concerns and I see there's value in what you're telling me with this change, I'll take that journey with you. So if we can build that trust and that collaboration and address each other's concerns, most of the time arguments or subversion or silos or end rounding or backbiting, most of that just comes from because somebody has a legitimate concern and they don't feel listened to, right? So my challenge is, if you have a specific thing that you're worried about, that you're resistant to with change and you want to take your next step, go practice being open and getting your concerns addressed and collaborate. So Jake, what would be your challenge if anybody listening to this podcast would do this? You would go to bed sleeping better at night.
Do something different. You don't like where you're at, or even if you do like where you're at and you want it to stay the same, then do something different. Read the book. Don't put it off. The other thing I would suggest is when you have that, and whatever it is, intuition to do something, don't put it off. Yeah, I'm going to get to it. Do it now. But it's important, do it now. If this book's important or this impacted you and it sparks something in your mind or your heart to do something or be different, do it now. Make it important. Don't put it off or you lose the feeling, you lose the drive. Do it now.
So the vision for this would be that anyone in construction, because you shared the podcast, hint, hint, but anybody in construction that's having a hard time, these experienced and wonderful, beautiful people that we have in this industry that may be struggling a little bit with change, with lean, with IPD, with new safety standards, with anything that's happening, we can bring everyone together. The experienced folks can slow down a little bit of the, drive as fast as you can mentality. The innovative people can help some of the people that might be resistant to change, can help them move forward a little bit and be open to certain things. And through trust and collaboration and like Jake said, leveraging the strengths of your team, we can go so much farther and so much better and do such a better job and be more fulfilled and happy than we could have before, right? And I just feel like that's the end game. We want everyone. So Jake and I are on this call Saturday morning, in the morning. You can probably hear my kids scampering down below. The reason we're on this, doing this podcast, is so that everyone can be happier at home, make more money, have their promotions, or do better in their position where they want to stay, have fulfillment at work and be able to do those things that they're dreaming about doing. And that is the vision. So Jake, please say goodbye to the audience and any closing words before we close this out.
Goodbye. It's been fun spending time with you. Go get it.
Stop waiting and go get it. Well, there's a couple things here that I'm going to actually write down as quotes. I hope none of that's copyrighted. So it's been a pleasure. Jake, I love working with you. This has been inspirational. I've learned so much. So until we meet again, everyone, let's go get this done. Let's take our journey in a responsible pace and do things that we thought were impossible. On we go.
Thanks, Jason.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.